my addiction came on full force. And by the end of the summer, I was shooting heroin, which was my drug of choice for the next 14 years, till I was 28 years old. And to me, I tried earnestly, sincerely, and honestly to quit constantly. I made pledges to my brothers, to my friends, to my family. I took vows. I wrote out agreements and contracts. I saw a psychiatrist. I did everything that I could think of, and nothing worked. I would tell myself at 9 in the morning, I'm never going to do that again, and I would absolutely believe it and be committed to it. By 4 o'clock, I was doing it.
Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. spoke candidly about his long history with addiction. In a recent appearance on This Past Weekend with comedian Theo, Kennedy reflected on decades of substance abuse and recovery. During the wide-ranging conversation, he made a blunt admission about the depths of his past drug use. Kennedy said he was not scared of a germ and admitted that he had used to snort cocaine off toilet seats, underscoring how reckless his addiction had once become. On the podcast, RFK Jr. emphasized that attending daily recovery meetings remains essential to maintaining his sobriety. He explained that if he does not actively treat his addiction by showing up to meetings, his life can quickly destabilize. Kennedy noted that he and Theo attended early morning recovery meetings together before the COVID-19 pandemic. When lockdowns began, he said they formed what he called a pirate group that continued meeting in person. Kennedy has previously acknowledged that he began experimenting with drugs at just 15 years old. In past public remarks, Kennedy has described battling a 14-year heroin addiction before ultimately getting sober. He now says he's maintained sobriety for more than 40 years through consistent participation in recovery programs. Kennedy has often connected his personal experiences with addiction to his views on public health and drug policy. At the RX and Illicit Drug Summit in Nashville in 2025, he told health, law enforcement, and business leaders that overcoming addiction shaped his policy perspective.
I thought it might be more helpful to all of you if you to share some of my own experience with this disease and some of the lessons that I've learned from recovery. I was born in a very, and raised in an extremely close and Catholic family. I don't know if my addiction was the result of genes. My mother family had alcoholism all the way back to the Neanderthal times. And she was one of the only members to escape it, or whether it came from trauma or anything. And it's really irrelevant how I got it. People say you don't look at the past, you look at the past, but you don't stare at it. And, I know that the only way that I stay sober is through taking responsibility for my daily actions. At the time I was 15 years old, I never even drank coffee. And my father died the summer before. And that summer, I went to a party, a going-away party for the elder brother of a friend of mine who was being shipped to Vietnam. He'd been drafted, and the party turned into a melee, and he ended up hitting a cop and going to jail instead of Vietnam. But I was hitchhiking home from that party, and an older boy who I knew, but only vaguely, picked me up, and he offered me a tab of LSD. And LSD had come to Cape Cod that night. This was 1969. And a lot of people in my town, as it turned out, had taken it. I would never have taken it, but the town that I lived in had one store, and it had a post office and one store. And every Tuesday, the comic books came to that store. And I was addicted to comic books, as were a lot of my peers. And my favorite comic was a comic called Turok, Son of Stone, which was about these two Indians. And about 2 weeks before, the episode was that they had taken mescaline or peyote or some kind of hallucinogen, and they were transported back in time, and they saw dinosaurs. And I had a deep interest in paleontology. And I said to the guy, if I take that, will I see dinosaurs? And he said, you might. And I ended up taking it, and I had this wonderful experience of very, very intense hallucinations. But in the morning, I was remorseful. And I was kicking myself and saying, you swore you would never do this. You broke your commitment to yourself. And I swore to myself I would never take drugs again. And I was walking home from the town, which is about 3 miles from my home. And I was getting darker and darker as I crashed from the acid. And when I saw it, and I had to go home and face my mom. I had violated my curfew, and my mother had invented tough love. And I saw some older boys in the woods near my home. And I went in to see what they were doing, and I told them that I was crashing on the acid. And they said, try some of this. And it was a line of crystal meth. And I took it, and all my problems went away, just evaporated. And I felt better than I'd ever felt in my life. And my progression, they say that your addiction is doing push-ups when you're not doing it and getting strong. And my addiction came on full force. And within about 3 weeks, I was shooting meth. And by the end of the summer, I was shooting heroin, which was my drug of choice for the next 14 years, till I was 28 years old. And to me, I tried earnestly, sincerely, and honestly to quit constantly. I made pledges to my brothers, to my friends, to my family. I took vows. I wrote out agreements and contracts. I saw a psychiatrist. I did everything that I could think of, and nothing worked. And to me, the most demoralizing feature of this disease was my incapacity to keep contracts with myself. And I would tell myself at 9 in the morning, I'm never going to do that again, and I would absolutely believe it and be committed to it. By 4 o'clock, I was doing it, and I had no control over that person that I was going to be at 4 o'clock. And of course, like most addicts, I interpreted this as a moral failure, as a character failure. And that fed this addiction of morosity, of self-loathing, of darkness. And I came in, I got arrested in September of 1983. And at that time, the cat was out of the bag, and I was able to do things, including go to 12-step programs, which I would have never done before. Because of my family and the way that I've been raised, the last thing I would do was to share secrets that I had with a crowd that I didn't know. So suddenly I could do that. And I knew that I needed a spiritual awakening, because I did not want to be the person that I was. I wanted to be just a normal person who didn't wake up in the morning thinking of drugs and thinking about them all day and devoting my energies to that. I wanted to be somebody who just got up in the morning and went to work and had a normal life. I didn't want to be that person. And I definitely did not want to be somebody who was white-knuckling it, who was on the street trying to not take drugs but wanting them all the time. I just wanted to be a different person.